The Chicago Bulls asking price for Zach LaVine has reportedly dropped significantly, according to Casey Johnson. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And do the Bulls have an obligation to maybe send Zach LaVine to a place of his desire, or should they focus more so on what the team need is? And the Bulls reportedly are also heavily considering international talent in the draft. So we're going to talk about the international players that could fit the most for what the Chicago Bulls draft needs are, and dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. So, reportedly from Casey Johnson, the Chicago Bulls asking price has dropped significantly. We're going to get back to that here in a second. We had earlier in that day from The Athletic reportedly that Zach LaVine was very intrigued by the Lakers at the midpoint last season. But the question is, are the Lakers still interested in Zach LaVine? When you look at Zach LaVine in the 3 years at $43 million average per year left on his deal, could that be something that the Los Angeles Lakers could even realistically acquire, considering that we've heard that the Lakers are still hesitant to move on from Austin Reeves or any player like that, is what it comes down to. From Jovan Bouya, I believe is how you pronounce it, from The Athletic, he said this. Now, I did hear during the season that Zach was intrigued by the potential of being a Laker, and that was around the time that the Zach to LA rumor started. Now, could those talks be revisited this summer? I don't know. I'd guess not. If you look at what the Lakers need, he checks some of those boxes, but he's a step down from Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young tier, maybe even a couple of steps down. So it seems like the Lakers are going to be prioritizing talent like Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell. That's not too surprising considering, who we heard that the Lakers are kind of focusing on OJ Anunoby and those type of trades if they were to make a trade at last year's trade deadline. So it seems like right now that Zach may like to go to the Lakers, and that maybe the Lakers could be interested if they strike out on everything else, which then kind of brings us to our next topic, right? I want to talk about, do the Bulls owe it to Zach LaVine to send him to a place that maybe he wants to go, or should they look at it whatever team gives them the best offer? I was in the camp that I firmly believe that had Zach LaVine not opted for the optional surgery to end his season last year, that signs were pointing towards the Bulls actually completing the deal with the Detroit Pistons to send Zach LaVine there. That's my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that as fact, but when you kind of look at how the things went and how the Pistons ended up trading most of the pieces that were rumored in a Zach LaVine trade with other teams. So I do think there was something there. And personally, in looking at this, yes, you would love to be able to say we sent a player to his desire, but the Bulls are not in this situation to do what the Bears did with Justin Fields. They sent Justin Fields to a place that he wanted to go, got a conditional 6th-round pick back on top of that. The Bulls are not in that position. And that's not to say that the Bulls are going to get some star-level talent back or anything like that, but I don't think that the Bulls owe it to Zach LaVine to really to make sure that the priority is sending him to a destination of his choosing. I do think that if they can get what they need and send him to where he wants to go in a show of goodwill, they may very well do that. But I don't think that the Bulls owe Zach LaVine that, in my personal opinion. Like I said, everybody can be entitled to their own opinion. I can't knock anybody for thinking, well, Zach, listen, we didn't do right by Zach. We didn't give him the team that he kind of needed around him. And maybe the Bulls should look to do right by him by sending him to a place where he can contend at. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and saying where the Bulls are right now, they need the best deal that they can possibly get back. But what does that deal look like? Well, per Casey Johnson yesterday, Casey Johnson said this. More to the point, I've reported before that the asking price was all-star level talent, first-round picks, or both. And my sense is that it has dropped significantly. Now, this shouldn't surprise anybody who's been watching Chicago Bulls Central for a while. I've been telling most people who say things like, oh, the Bulls should get Alfred Sengun, the Bulls should get, Josh Giddey back or something like that, that the asking price for Zach LaVine, because of where the market is, it's not going to be as high as that. And, with the Bulls, should they make a move if one of those type deals is available to them? Absolutely. I would never say that they shouldn't if somebody does offer them that. It's not that they should aim low, but they should be realistic about what the market is telling them the current asking price is for Zach LaVine. And if they can get a first round pick, if they can get multiple first round picks with one or both of them being protected to a degree, that may end up being the best case scenario. Some of the best and most realistic deals we've heard recently for Zach LaVine are like the Magic deal, right? Or getting something back to where you're gaining cap flexibility and maybe a first round pick, right? That's some things that the Bulls seriously have to consider. But it coming from KC Johnson, again, take everything with a grain of salt. Nothing's absolute or 100 around here. But I do think that it points to those things that we can expect, that the return package for Zach LaVine to disappoint most Bulls fans. And I've been trying to prepare you guys for that. And I definitely think that that's kind of where we're headed in a lot of cases for the Chicago Bulls. But as always, you guys can definitely sound off down below. Let me know how you guys feel about that. And what do you think the Bulls asking price should realistically be for Zach LaVine? With that said, also from KC Johnson in his Mailbag article yesterday, he did say that don't overlook the fact that the Chicago Bulls could focus on international talent, that they scouted heavily overseas last year, and they could be looking at that international talent, which of course immediately got my wheels spinning on who could that international talent be. Now, we know that Alexander Starr is an international talent. He's probably going to go number one overall. Nikola Topic is another one is another one that is an international product. But again, he's probably going in the top 4 to 5. So then that leads to, okay, who else could the Chicago Bulls be interested in if they do go international, which also happens to coincide with it being kind of more the prospect talent, right? You're definitely going on high potential in those type of cases. And one of the ones is a player that we did cover here, and that is Matas Buzelis, right? Is another one that a lot of mocks are starting to have going to the Chicago Bulls. He could go early in the top 5 to 8 as well, but if he falls there, he is a player that the Bulls could look at to bring in. You look at him as being a floor spacer, the feel for the game that he has, really solid off-ball defender as well, has some tremendous defensive upside as well, but his biggest upside comes down to him being a shooter. Now, he's had kind of 1 year of being a high prospect shooter, but, we'll see. He didn't shoot the 3-ball the best in the G League. That could be going towards that. You got to adapt to kind of the physicalness of NBA basketball, which the G League is closer to that than what he faced overseas. But he is a player that is great in transition. He runs the floor really hard. He knows how to go to kick out. He's a solid passer as well. He runs coast to coast, and he's a solid rebounder on top of all of that. Matas Buzelis, 19 years old, 6'8", basically 6'9", with a 6'10", 11 wingspan. He needs to fill out that frame, but he could fit that mold for the Chicago Bulls. Another guy that I've talked about a lot more recently is Tajon Saloon, and this guy has the potential to be the type of guy that ends up excelling in a weaker draft like this. 18 years old, he'll be 19 most of his senior year. His defense, the different positions that he can guard, all those type of things, the fact that his three-point shot seems to be rounding out, 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. This guy can play multiple positions. He can guard multiple positions. He has a great feel for the game as well. He hustles hard, and he has some of the highest upside of anybody in this draft. And so because of that, I could see him fitting that mold for the Chicago Bulls as well if they're truly going international prospect in this. Again, we're taking KC Johnson's word with a grain of salt, but I just want to add some color to that as well. Now, Zachary Richeshere is one as well, but we know he's probably going to go top 3, probably number 2 overall, so I don't have him on this list either. But then to round it out in a player that could interest the Bulls. Now, this is probably not going to be somebody that the Bulls go after at number 11, but again, with how close this draft is, that's Bobby Klintman. Now, this is a guy, 21 years old, a little bit older, 6'10", 7-foot wingspan. His on-ball defense is already probably going to be elite. Not much of a scorer yet. He's shown some upside of being a scorer. Extremely switchable defender. Can play the power forward or the small forward, maybe even some small ball center for you as well. He has that point forward type potential that he's going to go to. He needs to get stronger, and that already being 21 years old, there's of course some concern on how he's going to look in that case, but he is a guy that does fit that mold of being a overseas prospect from Australia. Well, he played over in Australia. He's from Sweden, so maybe that is something as well that the Bulls looked at and said, hey, this is a prospect that maybe not a lot of guys look at that we can. He's slated to go right now later in the first round, but again, could be somebody that could fit the Bulls mold as well. But you guys can let me know what you guys think on those prospects down below. But all right, let's go ahead and get into the voicemail bag for today, which is Sunday. So it's the main part of this episode. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald from Columbus, Georgia. I was just listening to you and Pat on Locked On Bulls about the Orlando offer, and the more I think about it, the more I don't like it. No offense to Mo Wagner or Ingles or whoever else they want to throw in there. It's just that no matter how I look at it, the way I feel, not that I know, but the way I feel is that any deal that comes before the start of the season isn't going to end well for the Bulls. Or the Bulls aren't going to get anything really close to that would be value. I mean, not even like 40 cents on the dollar type of deal. So what my belief is, the Bulls should wait until 25 to 30 games into the season. I mean, I think we all can agree that no matter what moves they make, they're not going to be contenders this year and probably not next year either. So, my belief that they should probably be more, concerned about doing a sign and trade with DeMar or maybe trying to move off Lonzo's contract. Even though I don't think there's going to be a lot of takers. When someone talked about an Andrew Wiggins deal, my thought was, why not throw in Lonzo Ball and Javon Carter's contract and Portland's first round pick and just make that deal for Wiggins. But then I thought they'd never make it. Not because with Lonzo's expiring contract, they can use up all $20 million. They have an owner who doesn't care about a price as long as they can compete. So the way I see it right now, like I said, try to do a sign and trade with DeMar. Try to see if you can get up off of Lonzo's contract and maybe look for young guys cook. But what are your opinions on that? Oh, and also, I don't want them to resign Patrick Williams for more than like $15 million because he hasn't earned it. Like you and Pat said, he's 10 points, 4 rebounds. That's not going to cut it. I don't care if he has good defensive games against some of the better players on opposing teams. But anywhere between 13 and 15, that's the range.
I got to disagree with you. I actually think you get more in the offseason than what you do at the trade deadline. And I think that's pretty much been proven. You tend to get more because at that point, teams are kind of know what their first round picks are going to be. They haven't turned into players yet. So even during the season, if a player was drafted in the first round that would have been at the pick you would have gotten in the offseason, sometimes once teams start seeing that player in practice, they're higher on them. So I don't think that waiting increases Zach LaVine's trade value. I think actually it does the opposite. Teams can get hurt on players can get hurt on other teams. Sometimes teams come in and they're in the offseason. They're like, yeah, we're right there. We're right there. So let's go ahead and make this trade in the offseason. Whereas during the season, they may see that they're actually further away than they thought and not be as big on making that trade. So I don't think that it's necessarily true that you could just assume that Zach LaVine's trade value is going to be better if you wait into the midseason. I do think that there's a chance that it can get worse, especially if the Bulls look like shit as well in the first half of the season. And, not to say that they finished this past season all that strong, but I think that, and if Kobe White looks worse next to Zach LaVine, for example, or something like that, teams that already doubt how Zach contributes to winning could look to do that. So I don't necessarily think that. I think we've actually seen the opposite. That a lot of times, the trade value goes down if you wait. That's my personal opinion. I understand where you're getting at with waiting, but again, I think that you could things change when you get into the season. And right now, because so many teams are optimistic and a lot of those teams are going to end up being disappointed, you kind of got to go with trying to go at it this offseason. And per what like Casey Johnson said is that the Bulls and Zach LaVine are focused to this breakup happening this offseason. So I think we just got to come to the realization that more likely than not, when you pair that also with Casey Johnson saying the Bulls' asking price has dropped, Zach probably isn't going to be a Chicago Bull much longer. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from my brother, Corn.
Hey, what's the word, King? It's Corn. Hey, man, I was triggered earlier with that shit, man. I was, that clinging. Let me just say this. Let me be fair. Let's not move up for anybody in this draft. Let me just start off with that. I don't want to move up for anybody. I don't even want to move up for Zach Edey. As much as I want Zach Edey, we better not move up to get fucking Zach Edey. Fuck no. Fuck no. Filipowski, any of these guys. We better not move up to get any of these guys. This is the draft. to move back. If we're going to do that, move back. Move back. I know this ain't NFL. Move back. Get 2 seconds. I'd rather them move back and have 2 second round picks than just have the first round pick and move up to get it clinking. No. And I get it. I get the parallels, and people kind of want to say that remind them of Noah. I understand why. I get it. Back-to-back champion like Noah. A defensive man like Noah, real protector like Noah, good rebounder like Noah, go to work, you know what I'm saying, hard worker type dude. The only thing I have a problem with, like I already talked about, was the minutes. But regardless of that, yes, I was very, very irritated with that. We better not trade up for nobody. And I said anyone, not even for Zach LaVine. And that's one of the moves. If I was AK, that's what I would do. And remember I asked you the question, if I was AK, this is what I would do if I was AK. Okay, first, I ain't gonna lie, I would draft Zach LaVine at number 11. Next thing I would do is get rid of DeMar, and I'm getting rid of Zach, the other Zach. Getting rid of one Zach to get another Zach. That's what I'm doing. Then after that, I'm setting myself up for the 2025. You understand? That's what I'm setting myself up for. Getting myself foundation pieces is now what we need to do for this season. That would be my focus for AK. Found the foundation pieces to have the superstar ready for 2025. If we get in, if we draft. But that's what I would do if I was AK. I would not trade Alex Caruso. I know people going to get kind of irritated with that, but I would not trade AC. Not right now. All right, King. You already know what it is. Love you. Blessings.
So listen, I get what you're saying in moving back. Moving back does happen in the NBA. It doesn't happen like, for example, how it happens in the NFL where you still get some assets back or something like that. So we'll end up seeing, I mean, I'm not to say that the Bulls shouldn't be exploring all options, because they should. And if if they think they can get their guy later than earlier in the draft, then what's the risk of moving back, right? Yeah, somebody could end up taking your guy, especially in a draft where all the talent is kind of bunched in there, regardless of where mocks are having it. A lot of the talent kind of has the same ceiling and potential-wise, at least on paper. But I do agree that 2025 is a big one when you look at free agency. Not that the Bulls are ever really big players in free agency, but I do think that draft is where you can probably find your next talent to really change the direction of your team. And let's hope that the Bulls, at the end of the day, just make the right decision. Weak drafts have produced superstar players before. So maybe the Bulls think they can get lucky in that. And so I can see the merit in keeping Caruso, but I think you have to explore all avenues with where the Bulls are right now, because at Caruso being 30 years old, his value is still extremely high, that if you can get stuff back that can absolutely help the present and or future of your team, I think the Bulls have to explore that at least. And we'll see what they do, Corn. But great insight, great thoughts there. Now let's get into this next one. This one's from Ant.
What up, Haize? It's your boy Ant, the big homie, calling from Champaign, Illinois, by way of the West Side. I just got done watching your video, and you made an interesting point about the trade proposal for our big to Memphis Grizzlies for Luke Kennard and the other young kid, and basically getting Vooch off the books. Basically, that's what the trade is basically about, is getting rid of Vooch's contract. Keep that in mind, how you feel about these proposals that I'm thinking of. How you feel about maybe calling up Brooklyn, asking if they're interested in Zach. Give us Ben Simmons and one of them future first-round draft picks. They have a multitude of picks from Miami, from, I believe, Phoenix, from the trade that they did with Durant. They have a multitude of first-rounders coming in. So just an interesting tidbit. And, of course, we don't have to re-sign Ben. That's just basically to get Zach off the books. And our vision should be 2025. Like you said, that's the last draft for a while. That's the impact of a franchise. Not only that, the free agents that's coming up in 2025. I would like to try to go after Naj Reid. I don't think he's going to resign with Minnesota, because I think he wants to start. I will go after Brandon Ingram. If we can get those two and add them to the young nucleus we got, I think we might be on something. Let me know what you think. Let's show. Follow you on all platforms. Let's go.
Getting Ben Simmons back and some of Brooklyn's first-round picks that they have from other teams in exchange for LaVine. Listen, as much as I hate Ben Simmons, and I don't think Ben Simmons is a player that's going to turn it around, before some people said that we should have traded Zach LaVine for Ben Simmons back before Zach signed his max level contract because they thought that would have been better. The fact that Ben Simmons is expiring, it does fit some of that. At least that money's coming off the books at the end of the year. I do think the Bulls want to take a look at some young talent that may be able to fit in. Ben Simmons really doesn't fit this team, I think. But again, if you're looking at it more from the expiring contract route and getting the first-round picks, because the Brooklyn Nets do have tons of first-round picks coming in over the years. I mean, it depends on how those first-round picks are going. If you're getting Zach LaVine for a Ben Simmons who hasn't been able to stay playing around for the NBA, we got to get some of those picks. But a lot of the picks that the Brooklyn Nets have from other teams are heavily protected. So it really depends on it depends on a lot, bro, is what I can tell you. Like, I'm not saying that that's a perfect deal. I'm not saying that's something I would want the Bulls to explore, because while the Brooklyn Nets have a lot of first-round picks, where those picks they're not sitting too great. Now, they do have the Phoenix Suns pick outright, which in the 2025 draft, even that ends up in the 20s, can be a pretty damn good pick for you as well. So, and I think Brooklyn has the rights to swap picks with the Houston Rockets as well next year. So maybe that's something you're looking at. Like I've agreed with everybody. The 2025 draft is the next time to make a big move for the Chicago Bulls. If they can hold on to their picks or acquire other ones, maybe they can. I mean, let's hope so. I don't know if the Brooklyn Nets are the perfect trade partner there, or one that I would necessarily want the Bulls to take a look at. But, hey, if that offers them the best chance to improve their team, hey, do it. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for today. This one's from Maddie Legend.
Yo, what up, Haize? This is Maddie Legend. Just sitting here thinking about my Bulls, and I think, okay, so worst case scenario, they keep Mar, they keep Vooch. Yeah, you're moving on from Zach. All right, so they reset their plan. Their plan was to have Lonzo, Zach, Mar, Vooch. Okay, so now let's reset the plan. Now we're going to have Caruso, Kobe, Mar, Vooch. Now, what we have to do is we have to refill in the bench. That's what I think the rebuild is going to be. I don't want that to be the case, but I feel like that is what AK is thinking is going to happen. Don't like it, but in my brain, that makes the most sense. Let me know what you think, man.
All right, so you got Caruso, Kobe, DeMar, and Vooch staying around. I mean, I don't know if retooling the bench is going to be the thing that they kind of focus on. I think they're going to be focused on improving the talent of the team overall, because they could have players that, in Julian Phillips, Adama Sanogo, maybe Ernolat Batum. We still don't know how they really evaluate him after that eye thing. Like, they could have players that are already kind of ready to fill out that bench. So I don't know if that's the best bet. It seems like they're looking at some serious change, but I do think there is a world in which the bench is mainly the thing different, and maybe most our starters stay the same. That is a possibility there. I won't act like it's not. And we just got to see what the Bulls are going to do. I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, I just hope that we pick a clear direction for this team, and that's what the front office does. That's my hope. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Let's hope and pray that it does. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.